Imagine a time when players stepped off the ice, lit a cigarette between periods, and exhaled clouds of smoke that hung heavy in the locker room air. Smoking was woven into the fabric of hockey culture, a ritual as routine as taping a stick or lacing up the skates. But how did we go from that hazy, smoke-filled past to a league where cigarette smoking is a distant memory? And what price did some of the game's greatest stars pay for a habit once seen as harmless? It's time for a deep dive into the history of smoking in the NHL. In the early 20th century, smoking wasn't just accepted, it was promoted, and NHL players were no exception.
In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel.
Stars like Billy Birch endorsed Lucky Strikes, appearing in ads that linked their on-ice success with the brand. In the 1930s and 40s, players like Pitt Lapine and Herbie Lewis posed for cigarette advertisements, their images used to sell tobacco to fans. It was a time when smoking was seen as sophisticated, even healthy. For players, it was a way to relax, to steady nerves before a big game. Bill Durnan, the Montreal Canadiens' goaltending great, was known to rush from the ice after the buzzer and light up a dart to calm his nerves. In those days, no one batted an eye. It was just part of hockey culture, with locker rooms smelling of sweat, liniment, and cigarette smoke. The 1970s and 1980s marked the peak of smoking among NHL players, with many star players smoking out in the open. Guy Lafleur, the Montreal Canadiens legend, was rarely seen without a cigarette. In the early 80s, his pregame routine included sharing smokes with teammate Chris Nyland while they taped their sticks, a ritual as essential as on-ice warm-ups. Mike Bossy, the New York Islanders' goal-scoring machine, would often be found giving post-game interviews with a cigarette in hand, the smoke curling around him as he recounted his latest exploits. And Mario Lemieux was known to smoke half a pack a day early in his career. Darren Pang recalls Dennis Savard filling the car with cigarette smoke on their drives to practice, and Steve Larmer was known to smoke over a pack a day. Smoking during intermissions was still fairly common, with Al Iafrate, a defenseman from 1984 to 1998, famously using a blowtorch to light up between periods. This era also saw Russian and Eastern European players, like Sergei Zubov, bringing their smoking cultures to the NHL, with high smoking rates in their home countries. By the 1990s, smoking began to decline, influenced by increasing health awareness and anti-smoking bylaws, and hanging around the dressing room smoking darts became less typical. This period saw a shift towards smokeless tobacco, with chewing tobacco and nicotine pouches. Players like Todd Bertuzzi were known for using chew, and players like Jonas Gustafsson and Tyler Bozak were known to use dip during their time with the Leafs. By the 2010s, cigarette smoking among NHL players had significantly decreased. Reports from 2012 noted players like Carey Price, Dion Phaneuf, Mika Kiprusoff, and Alex Semin being spotted smoking, and Martin Havlat was still sneaking darts up until his retirement in 2016. But these instances were becoming less common. By 2019, The Athletic declared cigarette smoking virtually extinguished from the league, with no current players identified as smoking during the season based on anonymous conversations. And many players thought the idea of smoking in the dressing room was comical. Discussions on forums suggest that while some players might smoke occasionally on nights out or use cigars socially, there are likely no regular cigarette smokers left in the league. Of course, firing up a stogie remains a time-tested tradition after winning the Stanley Cup. But players are now fitter, faster, and more disciplined than ever before, and conditioning has become a year-round commitment that leaves little room for vices.
Obviously the VO2 earlier today was tough. Obviously once you get to the higher times on there, your legs start to give out a little bit, but it was a pretty good feeling after getting off the bike and kind of walking it off.
The decline in smoking among NHL players aligns with broader societal trends, with US adult smoking rates dropping from 30 to 40% to 14 to 20% by 2019, driven by federal regulations and health education. The hockey world has also come face to face with the tragic consequences of smoking in recent years, with Guy Lafleur and Mike Bossy dying from lung cancer in 2022, both having been heavy smokers. Fred Sasakamoose, one of the first Indigenous NHL players, also had lung issues linked to smoking, dying in 2020 from COVID-19 complications. And Tom Curvers also died from lung cancer in 2021 at age 58, though his smoking history is less well documented. Despite the decline in cigarette smoking, smokeless tobacco use remains an issue. The NHL has taken steps to address tobacco use, with policies under the collective bargaining agreement prohibiting endorsements or use around fans, in arenas, or at team functions, supported by annual health tours warning of nicotine dangers, including oral cancer. But even with these measures, it's an open secret that players like Alexander Ovechkin and many Nordic players, including Erik Karlsson, still use snus and nicotine pouches. So to recap, here's a little table I put together of notable NHL players known for their alleged tobacco use, including both cigarette smokers and smokeless tobacco users. Okay, so we got Billy Birch, who endorsed Lucky Strikes. We've got Pitt Lapine, who endorsed Buckinghams. We've got Herbie Lewis, who endorsed Camels. We've got a bunch of goalies, Bill Durnan, Gump Worsley, Johnny Bauer, and Terry Sawchuk. In the 70s and 80s, we've got guys like Guy Lafleur, Mike Bossy, Chris Nyland, Mario Lemieux, Dennis Savard, Al Iafrate, Steve Larmer. And then in more recent times, we've got guys like Marty Havlat, Carey Price, Alex Semin, Mika Kiprusoff, Dion Phaneuf. And then as far as our smokeless tobacco users go, we've got Todd Bertuzzi, Jonas Gustafsson, Tyler Bozak, Erik Karlsson, and Alex Ovechkin. I also put together a little table of cigar smokers just for the heck of it, with a lot of these guys being seen smoking in celebratory situations. So we got Phil Esposito, Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Mario Lemieux again, Brett Hall, Jeremy Roenick, Henrik Lundqvist, and of course Glenn Sather, who was known for chomping on unlit cigars in the press box. Alrighty, that's all for this look back at the history of smoking in the NHL. Drop a comment with your anecdotes about NHL players smoking or using tobacco products. I'd also be interested to hear about your own smoking habits. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more videos about hockey history.